No, I'm so excited. I love questions.
Really? Aw.
I feel so famous, not gonna lie.
This has been like in the works for like 2 months now. I think I mentioned to you like 2 months ago. Hi guys! Today I have my friend Teo here with me. She is Serbian and we're going to interview her about like her backgrounds, like being Serbian, various experiences she's gone through, etc. So yeah, should be fun. Tell me about your cultural and linguistic background.
Okay, my dad, he was born in Serbia in a small town called Valjevo, and my mom was actually born in Croatia in a small town called Knin. Even though my mom was born in Croatia, her family history is still like Serbian.
Okay.
So both my parents are like completely Serbian. So yeah, then there's me, 100% Serbian. So I speak both Serbian and Croatian. The linguistic differences between the languages aren't really that drastic. The only difference is like a little bit of like intonation, the accent, like a little bit of the dialect, maybe some like small like irrelevant vocabulary words. My mom growing up in Croatia, she knew both Serbian and Croatian. My dad, he's not that well versed in Croatian, but when I was little, my grandma raised me, so she was always speaking Croatian, and then my parents were always speaking Serbian. So I guess you could say at the beginning I spoke like a mesh of like Serbo-Croatian, which was kind of interesting.
That's a language though, Serbo-Croatian.
Yeah. It's just kind of switching out, like putting some Croatian words with some Serbian words. So for example, like rice in Serbian is pirinac, and rice in Croatian is rija. So sometimes I'd speak with like a Serbian accent, Serbian dialect, but then I'd put like Croatian vocab words in there, which was like really confusing to a lot of people, but I was small, so it worked for me. But
alright, and now you have like both languages, like you can speak them on command basically.
Yeah, but it's kind of like weird to like flip a switch because Croatian, the accent is a little bit more nasally, so I kind of have to like think about it before I start saying it. But yeah, I do figure it out by now. So my parents really wanted to make an effort to allow me to learn the language. So by 15 months old, I learned my first like prayer. By 18 months old, I learned another prayer. So yeah, religion is a huge thing in our culture. It was very difficult transitioning back to English because I transitioned to English very late. I would say like 2 months before the start of kindergarten is when I first started learning English. But I picked it up rather quickly, and I guess I have to thank my kindergarten teacher for that.
So what languages are spoken in Serbia?
So in Serbia, mainly Serbian, but you will see, because like former Yugoslavia, so basically before like the 90s, there was this whole mishmash of like 6 different countries. There was Croatia, Serbia, Macedonia, Montenegro, like Czechoslovakia and Slovenia, and they were all 6 countries operating as like one large republic. Even like to this day, you still have a lot of like Croatians living in Serbia, a lot of Montenegrins living there, and even though the language is essentially the same, like you will see a lot of different like dialects in different regions of Serbia. So down like south, where it's closer to like Montenegro, you will see a more like Montenegrin like dialect and accent there. If you go a little bit more north, you'll have some like pockets of like Slovenian dialects. So it really just varies, but yeah.
Yeah, I was reading that in like the north parts of Serbia, you'll also get like Hungarians. Have you ever encountered people speaking Hungarian?
Definitely. We've, like as a country, we have a very similar culture with the Hungarians, the Macedonians, especially since the Ottoman Empire ruled over most of the Balkans, like including Serbia, Croatia, for 550 years or so. So a lot of our cultural influence actually stems from like Hungary, Turkey, like that like Middle Eastern area. So yeah, we're very close knit with them. With Russia, the language has a much more drastic like linguistic difference. I don't personally like know fluent Russian, but if I were to talk with a Russian person, I would be able to pick out like the main like facets of what they're talking about, not exactly like the details, but certain like vocab words, like greetings, stuff like that can really hint at what they're trying to say. The closest thing that we share with the Russians are like culture and religion. So we're both like Christian Orthodox, a little bit history lesson, but like during World War I, like our biggest allies were the Russians, and they came to Yugoslavia and the Balkans defense on the base of like Slavic nationalism, like helping out people who are your own religion, your own culture. But yeah, the Serbs and the Russians, even like to this day, have a very closely knit like political relationship. The like presidents of and the rulers of like Russia have always been really, really helpful towards Serbia, which is a much smaller country than Russia. So
we were running somewhere in the dark. On Serbia. So how often do you go to Serbia?
I've been going to Serbia every summer since I was 6 months old. So we basically go for the entire month of August. We have a house there, but sometimes we do stay with like grandparents, aunts and uncles. What's really nice is that they all live within like 500 meters of one another. So it's like perfect. Like the transportation is so easy. You just like walk like 2 minutes and you're at the grandparents' house. You walk another 2 minutes, you're at the other one's house. So it's really convenient.
What part of Serbia is your family from?
It's from Valjevo, so it's about, I would say, like an hour and a half, I think, east of the capital, Belgrade.
So it's in like the central region?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a small town comparatively, but it has like 150,000 people.
Okay.
So I guess like in the US, when you say small town, you think like 1,000 people, but over there, a small town is like 150,000. So yeah, it's big comparatively.
I was reading that like the population of Serbia is like 7.5 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the population isn't that large in itself. It's just that there's like huge like portions of like countryside, and then there's like huge like towns and cities. Gotcha. So the thing is that like in reality, like I would say 70% of the land is like barely inhabited. Like it's like countryside, farmers, like horses, cows, like all of that. And then the other 30% is like these like big cities and towns, which is why they're so densely populated, because there's like not a lot of them. So
cool. Tell me about 2 of your favorite memories from Serbia.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, what I loved as a little kid was that because everybody in Serbia, like everyone is friends with one another. Like you have like such like close-knit friendships with like your entire apartment building, like your neighbors. It's definitely not like here. Like, yeah, we're friends with our neighbors, like we talk to them, but over there, like you walk down the street, like everybody says hi to you. Like like you know everyone. So what I loved as a little kid is that my uncle was really good friends with the horse carriage rider. So I used to get like free rides on the horses when I was little, and that was like so fun. Like I would just like trot through like the city square. That was really fun. Oh, there's a really nice like pool and like training facility about, I would say like 5-10 minute drive like from the main like city center, and there they have like a swimming and a water polo team.
Teo's a swimmer for reference.
I'm a swimmer. So but I did water polo like for my middle school. But water polo is a huge deal in Serbia. Like
oh really?
Yeah, we've been
I didn't know that.
We've been European champions for the past like 10 years in a row. We won the Olympics in 2016. We won the World Championships in like 5 times in the last 10 years. It's a huge deal, and there's huge rivalries between like Serbia and Croatia and all these other Balkan countries. Me being the curious little cat that I am, I wanted to see if I could like train with the Serbian like water polo team that was at the pool, and I thought like I would know a little bit of something. Like I thought I would be good at it, because I did play water polo for like a little bit at least. No, I got crushed. Like, and I'm a swimmer too, so like I can like swim fast, but it's like their like technique, like throwing, like all of this, I was like, wow, like I did not expect this. So, but it was a really fun experience to like meet everybody there. They're so fascinated with like America. They're like, oh, how's America? I can't believe you live in America. Like America. So it's really fun, like, bonding with, like, the swimmers and water polo players there.
That must be so fun. It's so cool that you have that experience, especially because you're so into swimming. Like, that's really unique.
Yeah.
That's so
it's a great way to meet friends.
Do you have a lot of friends in Serbia?
Yeah. So I made a lot of, like, childhood friends because I went there every year. Also, we have a lot of family friends there. So there are a few girls, like, my age, like 15, 16, 17. And we do hang out during the days. Like, we might go to the pool. We might just, like, walk around. There's this, like, festival. It's like a 2-week festival at the beginning of August that's very specific to the town where my parents are from. It's called the Tešnjatske večere. So basically, every night for 2 weeks straight in the beginning of August, there's, like, food vendors, there's booths, like, there's people selling, like, necklaces,
What's
bracelets.
it celebrating?
I don't really know. I think it's just, like, for the sake of a celebration.
Nice. We all need those.
It may have some historic background, but it's not really, like, prevalent. Like, it's just kind of a really fun way to, like, get the whole town together. There's also a huge river that runs through the town. It's called the Kolubara. And basically on the bank of the Kolubara, you have these, like, concerts. So people sit on the other side of the river and, like, the concert is happening over there.
Oh, that's so cool.
It's so fun, and, like, the whole entire town goes. There's really good food, there's really good music. It's, like, bustling. It's so fun. It's so fun.
That's so cool. You mentioned the river that runs through your town. So I was actually reading that, like, the borders of Serbia are in part determined by, like, the many rivers that are, like, around it.
Yeah.
Have you, like, traveled or visited any of the rivers, like, near the border?
I haven't been to, like, the outskirts of Serbia, but I have been to, like, Belgrade. The river that runs through my town also runs through, like, mainly all of Serbia.
Okay.
At the Kolubara, there's also the Gradac, which, like, has a reputation for being, like, the cleanest river in all of Serbia. Actually, in all the Balkans, really, because people freely. There's, like, a huge next to, like, this monastery in, like, the mountains. I think it's, like, a 15-minute drive from the city, but it's, like, this huge, like, pool where you can, like, swim in it. It's
nice.
Like, it's, like, cold, it's, like, crisp, it's clean, like, it honestly has, like, no pollution whatsoever. It's crazy. Like, it's crazy. Then you also have, the Danube River runs through Belgrade.
Oh, I think I've heard of that one.
Yeah. I think that one runs through, like, Germany or Austria, something like that.
So tell me about some common or maybe, like, unusual customs that you've encountered in Serbia. So, like, in Russia, I know that you're, like, when you shake hands with someone, you can't, like, walk through the doorway before you shake hands with them. You have to, like, stay outside and then shake and then go.
Okay, so in Serbia, when you're greeting somebody, it's always 3 kisses on the cheek, starting with the left one, and then you go left, right, left. That's, like, something that you always have to learn when you're greeting somebody. Oh, in Serbia, we have this, like, superstition where the draft from the windows, like, the wind, like, kills you. Like, if anybody, like, has the sniffles, like, if anybody's sick, if somebody has, like pneumonia, even, like, something that's, like, not related with, like, a cold whatsoever, they always blame it on the draft from the wind. So in Serbia, like, you never have the windows open. The windows are always closed.
Really? That's interesting.
Also, people don't use air conditioning there because of the draft, because they're so afraid that, like, the cold will kill them. Like,
that's an interesting
and
custom.
Like, it's so weird because, like, we have like friends from Serbia that come here and, like, they're freezing all the time, and it's like 65 degrees outside, which is, like, my prime temperature, honestly. And they see people, like, walking around in, like, shorts and a tank top, and they're wearing a winter coat. Like, I kid you not.
Really?
Yeah. Like, when they go to bed, like, I always like it to be a little chilly when I go to bed because I don't like sweating, but they rack the heating up to, like, 90 degrees.
That's so funny.
Like, it's honestly, like, the weirdest superstition, like, in the country. Like, it's crazy.
Okay, so in like, Russian culture, there's a spirit called the domovoi who, like, inhabits the house, and then if anything, like, goes wrong in the kitchen while you're cooking or something, it's the domovoi's fault. Is there anything like that in Serbia?
I don't think there's anything like that in Serbian culture.
Maybe it's just the draft.
I think it's the draft. Like, you blame everything on promaja. It's called promaja. you blame everything on it. Like, absolutely everything.
Yeah, Russians also blame everything on the domovoy. Literally, if anything goes wrong in the kitchen or in the house, it's the domovoy's fault. Have you, like, observed any, like, major differences between, like, American lifestyle and Serbian lifestyle in, like, terms of hospitality or in, like, home life, and just in general?
Yeah, the hospitality is, like, way different. People there, like, they're always, like, super welcoming. Like, whenever you come into somebody's house, like, first what you do is you have this thing called slatko, which translates to sweet. And it's basically, you have a glass of water and then you have this, like, thick, like, syrupy sweet made from, like, peaches, apricots, like, cherries. Like, it's so good. It's, like,
good.
It's, like, it's very similar to honey, but you have it with, like, a glass of water. You do not leave somebody's house without eating. Like, you just don't. Like, there's no such thing as, like, going over just to have, like, tea and water. Like, no, they will force feed you. Like, you will eat if you're there. So I guess there's, like, that hospitality difference. Also, people are, like, very, very, like, welcoming over there. Like, there's no, like, coldness or, like, bitterness, harshness. Like, everybody gets along. Like, I guess that's just, like, a cultural thing. But.
And I think, like, even in Russia, that's definitely prevalent. Like, I've read a lot about how, like, Russians will literally force feed you with, like, bread and salt is, like, a traditional thing. Like, when you go in a Russian home, you're, like, that's always, like, given, and they'll literally, like, make sure you eat something. Or with vodka, if you're an adult, they'll make sure you drink some. In Serbia, we have rakia.
It's, like, 95% alcohol. Like, my dad always has it. Like, you literally drink, like, this much of it, and, like, you're on fire. Like,
is it, like, spicy, or it's just, like...
It's just...
Like, if you drink a lot of soda, and then it, like, feels like kind of...
It's like drinking gasoline. Okay. Like, it's straight up ethanol. Like, I don't know how else to explain it.
Is, like, independence and, like, independence days in Serbia and Yugoslavia celebrated differently than in the United States? Like, is it celebrated with fireworks and, like, the usual festivals that we have here? Or do you know a lot about that?
I would say the Battle of Kosovo Polje in 1389, when Serbia finally became its own nation, its own kingdom. That is celebrated, but it's nothing like the 4th of July. Like, it's very simple. You might have some friends over, have, like, a huge feast and all that, but it's nothing elaborate. It's very, very simple.
Interesting. Do you have any thoughts on, like, Serbia-US international affairs? Like, what's going on right now? What do you think about it?
I mean, clearly, like, after the Yugoslavian war and the NATO bombing, like, relations haven't been very good between Serbia and the United States. It was really at its worst during Clinton's presidency, because that was, like, during the 90s, the outbreak of the war, like, the end of the war. But now it seems to have settled somewhat. There was also a huge problem, I would say, like, 9-10 years ago with Kosovo, which, as I said earlier, now has become its own independent province. And the US and many other, like, NATO countries were instrumental in voting for Kosovo to become its own province, which Serbia obviously wasn't very happy about that, because they didn't want people to vote that way. But I would say now, with the onset of, like, our new presidency in 2016, nothing really different has happened. It's just remained, like, neutral all these years.
What thoughts do you have on Serbian influence worldwide? Because I know, like, before I became really interested in, like, Russian culture and, like, the Slavic countries, I didn't really know much about Serbia, and pretty much you were the only, like, exposure I had to Serbia. But yeah, what do you think about it? Like, it's not in the news very often. Do you think that should be changed? Do you think more people should learn about the culture?
So, I mean, we are a very small country. Like, I don't expect us to have, like, a huge, like, broadening influence, like, on the world, but we do have, like, some charms about us. So, as you know, like, Novak Djokovic, he just won Wimbledon. He's a Serb, and he honestly came from one of, like, the hardest, like, beginnings of, like, his life out of any of the other tennis players. I actually watched a documentary about him. And when he was a little boy, it was when the Yugoslavian war broke out, and because all of the tennis courts were closed, because it was, like, an active bombing site, he would play in an emptied out pool and, like, hit the balls against the wall as, like, the missiles were like going overhead into the countryside, which
Wow.
was honestly like such an inspiring story for me. His parents like weren't that rich. His mom worked, I think it was like 15 to 18 hours a day in a crepe making store just to pay for his tennis lessons. His dad was also constantly traveling to like provide funds because tennis lessons are obviously very expensive. So he honestly came from a really hard beginning, and he made like a huge success out of it. And I think that is like a really common denominator in people that come out of Serbia, that you come from a very hard beginning, but because of that, like, you know what things are worth, and that's why you're so diligent to like work yourself to make it to that point. Whereas like here in America, like people have like such amazing opportunities. Like me and Ria, like we go to an amazing school that has like
we're so lucky, and it's all because our parents worked super hard.
We're so fortunate like to have all these opportunities that our school gives us. And people over there don't have that, and I think that's why I think that story from these like athletes, from Nikola Tesla, I don't know if you know him. He's the person who pioneered the electromagnetic current or something. He was rivals with like Thomas Edison, and like Tesla Motors. I know it's run by Elon Musk, but the idea of like the motor in these cars was like pioneered by like Tesla himself, like 70, like 80 years before that. But it's like these people that come out of Serbia, I just wish that like those like stories and like that part of the culture would kind of like permeate more like throughout the world, because I really do think it's worth like acknowledging like how people really went from like rags to riches. So that's,
I think especially on like stars like Novak Djokovic, like I'm sure like Serbians like you, and I know like you've told me that your family's like really like supportive of him. And, like, I'm sure you watched Wimbledon. Like for those of you who aren't like familiar with the Wimbledon final that happened like I think last weekend.
Sunday,
so it went to 5 sets, and in the last set it went to 12-12, which is like almost unprecedented, and then they had to do a tiebreaker, which was only a rule that was implemented very recently in like Wimbledon. Like,
usually Wimbledon, you just go and like in the 5th set you have to go until somebody wins by 2 games. So I think it was like a John Isner match like a few years ago. They went to 70-68.
And that's when they finally like said, okay, like 12-12. And it was Djokovic versus Federer. Federer was the crowd favorite, but Djokovic persevered throughout the match and he ended up winning. So it was, I'm sure like what would that win have meant to Serbians like in your country, in the US?
I mean, it just instills a lot of like national pride. Like Djokovic is like somebody that we really think he's honestly like he's our baby, like he's our Serbian baby. Like he's like the perfect emblem of like what it means to be Serbian. As you can see, like he wears a cross around his neck. He always like crosses his chest like that. Oh, also, tip is that Catholics in America and like Croatia, when they do a cross, they go like up, down, right, no, left, right, but Serbians go right, left. Which is like which is like really small like cultural difference, but it's there and it makes a difference. But he obviously does that like to the crowd. He kisses his cross. He like chants things like "Go Serbia," like for Serbia. And we're just like proud of him he
must be really proud of him.
Yeah, and it's, as I said, like it's just a symbol of like national pride, like having somebody that even though he became like famous and got all this money, like he still goes back to his roots. He still donates like millions of dollars to like foundations in Serbia, orphanages, all that stuff. And it just shows that he hasn't like lost who he really is at heart. So that's really nice.
Awesome. And I think like especially for countries like that aren't like the United States and in the UK, like smaller countries, like having that, like it's often seen through like athletes, like having like a really good athlete from your country. Like India has this too. I think like the couple Olympic medalists that we have in our country are from like riflery. So like we're really proud of them, and it's like can be seen parallels with like many different countries as well. Hey guys, first of all, happy almost New Year. I can't believe that 2020 is in literally what? It's in like 10 hours. I mean, that's crazy. New decade and all that. So yeah, happy New Year. I just want to apologize for the lack of posting. I've been so busy, and me and Teo, we filmed this video, this interview, and we also cooked this Serbian casserole together. It's called juvec. We did all that over the summer. So it has been a while. And part of the reason why this has taken me so long is because I've had a lot of trouble with the footage. It was shot in a really weird format and iMovie couldn't handle it. I tried with iMovie at least 5 times and it kept crashing, and some of my footage even got corrupted. So parts of this interview that we did I wasn't even able to include, which was, I'm so sorry about that. And it's really sad because there were good parts, you know, but this is good content. I hopefully will be posting more this year in 2020. I hope you enjoyed this interview. It was really fun to film. Teo was super cool. So thanks Teo for doing the video with me. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, like in the near future, let's see what we've got. Oh, I recently read Uncle Vanya, which is a play by Chekhov, and I did a post about it on my blog with like my favorite quotes and things like that, and I am hoping to do a video here with some analysis and go a little bit more in depth. I think that'd be fun. I've seen a lot of booktubers do reviews and things like that. I think when you read the play, seems like nothing's going on really, but I think there's a lot to read in behind the scenes. So yeah, that should be fun to explore. And I recently got a balalaika. I got an old one from the 1970s on Etsy. Yeah, so I'm doing a restoration of that. So yeah, hopefully I'll have a video of that coming out soon too, so stay tuned. Overall, happy new year. I hope 2020 was great for you, and see you later.